and welcome to the Wine Enthusiast Podcast, your serving of drinks culture and the people who drive it. I'm JC Tops, assistant editor here at Wine Enthusiast. As the football season comes to an end in February, the basketball season starts to heat up. This is the first episode in a two-part series we're calling Wine and Basketball. In the series, I chat with NBA basketball players who decided to get into the wine game. This week, I sat down with 10-time NBA All-Star Carmelo Anthony and his longtime business partner, Asani Swan. Together, they co-founded the Seventh Estate, a new global wine label. So listen on as we discuss Carmelo and Asani's journey into wine, representation in the industry, what inspired the name behind the inaugural vintage Oath of Fidelity, and where they envision their wine label will be in the future. Hi, I'm JC Tops, assistant editor here at Wine Enthusiast. And today I'm excited because my guests are Carmelo Anthony and Asani Swan. Carmelo is a 10-time NBA All-Star, and Asani is a producer, entrepreneur, and the longtime business partner of Carmelo. Together, they co-founded the Seventh Estate, a new wine label. Welcome, Asani and Carmelo. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
First, I want to say congratulations on launching your new wine label. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. Congrats.
I appreciate that very much.
So, inquiring minds want to know, how does one celebrate a wine launch? What did you guys do to celebrate your launch?
I'll let Asani take it from here.
Lots of sighs of relief and a lot of excitement. It took us 4 years to get to this point, and I think we were just elated for the world and the community to see that we were real and what we were working on was a quality project that we were really proud of. So we, of course, had to toast to a new wine launch.
Yes, of course. So there weren't any parties of anything, any large parties or anything like that.
Not this time.
Okay. So let's back up a bit. Carmelo, I know a lot of podcast enthusiasts know that you have a podcast yourself called What's in Your Glass.
Yes.
And you launched that during COVID, and you talk about wine and current events and things like that. But I do know a lot of people don't know that you're into wine. So how long have you been in wine, and what got you into wine?
I've been into wine, I would say, more than 10 years, more than a decade, just that whole experience, that whole journey of just, drinking wine and being interested in just the science of wine and just how it's made. And, at that point in time when I got into wine, it wasn't a big wine culture in sports in the NBA and just our community. So that was something I was very cognizant of. I wanted to, get into wine and really learn it and really understand it so I can be able to, go out there and talk and become more educated on just the process of making wine. And that led me, 10, 15 years later here speaking to you about, launching the Seventh Estate.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. What about you, Asani? Is this project your first time dealing with wine, or were you into wine previously?
Well, I grew up in the Bay Area. And so I always say, the coming of age moment when you turn 21 is go to Napa and go on a wine tasting tour, which is what I did. My experience with wine growing up is holiday gatherings, fun experience, and people just very intentionally experiencing one another over nice glasses or bottles of wine and great conversation. But I will also say this is my first venture into the wine business. And what it has done is it has accelerated my education of wine, the industry, and the people in it.
Okay, awesome. Speaking of Napa, that's where you and I met earlier in May.
Yes.
And Carmelo was there as well. We were at the Robert Mondavi Estate for their dinner in the Vines event. It was so much fun.
We had a hell of a time. That was a great night.
It was so beautiful. It was really hot, but it was a great day. So the inaugural vintage is Oath of Fidelity. It's sounds really awesome. I'm sure there's something behind it. So what inspired that name?
It was again thinking about culture, right, and being a history buff, right, and wanted to connect two different cultures, right, the wine industry, which has forever has been one way, right, is only looked upon one way, for certain demographics. And I just wanted to bring some type of culture. And speaking about older fidelity, right, in Toussaint Louverture, is like that was somebody who I've always looked at and admired in the culture of when it comes to fight and determination and breaking barriers and and staking claim in the world. And that's where the oath of fidelity comes from. That was the oath, that Toussaint, had his people, our people, they signed it, right? They signed the oath to go along with him, and they trusted him. And shouts to Pop, that's where that's the council of the Pope, right? So it's just so much history, and that I really want to tap more into, not just with the wine, but in the storytelling aspect of it.
Oh wow, that's really interesting. What is your vision for the brand? I mean, and this can go to Carmelo or Sani or both. As far as how do you see the brand growing in the next 5 to 10 years?
I would say we're building legacy. I think that's our collective goal, and to create spaces for other people to enjoy. Mello and I didn't just arrive here, we have earned our spot. We'll continue to earn a spot and create spaces for people that look like us. But 5 to 10 years from now, a few of our goals or visions are to create a slate of amazing wines for diverse groups of palates, and to also just create more space for winemakers of color to tell our stories and what goes into our winemaking process.
Ooh, I hear that. Thank you. Asani, I want to stick with you because you are now one of the very few Black women at the helm of a wine label.
Mhm.
With wine enthusiasts, I've been able to interview and talk with a few of the other Black women, Marvina Robinson, who owns her own champagne label, and the McBride sisters, and Iris Rideau, who was the first Black woman to own a winery ever in this country. What does that feel like? Is the industry becoming more inclusive? What has your experience been since? I know you just launched, but this has been a long time in the making. What has your experience been as a Black woman?
Well, let me first say it's an honor to be counted in that number, because I'm just getting started, and these women who have sacrificed and who have been building over the years, it's an honor to be in their company and to learn from them. I'd first say, the Black women that I've met so far in the wine industry have been so incredibly supportive, inviting, and collaborative. And that is a huge piece of how I am able to continue moving forward. They answer the phone and allow me to ask the questions that I need in order for us to continue building a successful business. I would say the industry is becoming more inclusive, but it's slow. It's slow to the starting line, I would say. But we have a unique opportunity to accelerate that growth. And I think one of the things that we do is we support others that are in the space. We don't have to be so competitive that we're not willing to support each other. So that's one of the things. We championship initiatives that drive community, and that is an important element, and to be able to tell our story. But I would also say, as a Black woman, it continues to be an uphill battle. But I think what makes us different is that we have an innate ability to persevere, and because of that, we succeed.
Yes, awesome. Which leads me to the next question, of course. When I interviewed those women before, I always asked, is representation important? And of course, it's important. So I'm going to ask you, why is representation in the wine community important?
It's important because there's 8 billion people in the world.
Yes.
And there's, out of those approximately 8 billion people in the world, approximately 1 billion of those are wine drinkers or individuals who are in the wine business, which means that we need better representation to mirror all the beautiful people in this world who want to experience what you and I get to experience on a regular basis. And that is enjoying what winemaking is and what we put into a bottle to be able to allow that story to unfold. That is why representation is so incredibly important.
Yes, I agree. Let's talk about the wine. Carmelo, why did you decide to partner with third generation winemaker Stefan Usilio? And why is Chateauneuf de Pop?
Chateauneuf de Pop is very interesting. If you know, you know, right? And it's a very old world, wine. So, that was just a part of my journey, tasting different wines and going over to France and, just traveling around the world and experiencing different taste profiles, right? So I got a chance to, go down to Chateauneuf in Southern Rhone, and I felt like that was where I wanted to create and come to the market with and invite, my consumer and customer and fan base into a region that they probably never even heard of, right? So again, that goes to, old world meeting new world and just us being that bridge to be able to give that information and those experience, on both sides, and in France and Europe and around the world and here in our own country.
Okay. So the wine is how many years was it has it aged? What's the it's a 2000.
It's a 2017.
Okay,
So
2017.
it's we joke about it now. It's a 2017 CDP, but you're getting it now, which is almost 6 years later, right? So because of COVID and things like that forced the wine to sit still and age by force, people are getting a chance to experience what a real Chateauneuf de Pop really can taste like. When it ages and when it relaxes, as opposed to us releasing that 2017 in 2018 or 2019, it would probably have been, the taste profile probably would have been a little bit different. So we have a little bit of luck on our side when it comes to that.
So, what do you say to consumers who kind of don't believe celebrities are actually involved in their wine labels? Like you just kind of put your name on it and you walk away. Can you talk about your involvement in the process before it was happening and kind of now?
Yeah. As far as just putting your name on it, I think people get into this industry or in the industry for different reasons. For me, it's about building, right? It's about scaling. It's about growing, not just domestically but internationally around the world. So there's a plan that's been put in place, and it's still being put in place. And what everybody is seeing now is the work. That they're reaping the benefits now of the work that we've done over the past 6, 7, 8 years, and even the work I've done over the past 15 years. So I think it's super authentic for people to come along that journey and see it, and people is appreciating it now as opposed to me forcing it, on the people. I think people saw the journey. They enjoy the journey. We will continue, bringing that community on that journey. But it's a lot different when you have different reasons of why you in the industry.
Okay. So, what can we expect from the next vintage? Is this going to be like a every few year thing, or are you going to put out more varieties or more bottles?
The beauty in this is we could do whatever we want to do, and I don't say that
Exactly.
I don't say that in an arrogant way, right? I just say that because again, we're building this from the ground up, so there's no ceiling for us, right? So we have the ability to go anywhere we want to go and try to create and where it makes sense. So I don't, every year we will have, 2 to 3 releases, of different vintages and different varietals. And so we're going to enjoy it and we're going to have fun with this journey.
And it is pretty much all going to come from the in the Chateauneuf de Pop region.
No, it's, Oath of Fidelity will, be Chateauneuf de Pop. So that would be the Chateauneuf de Pop room underneath of the Seventh Estate. And then these other rooms will all be different, regions and varietals. And, every room would be different within the estate.
I have one final question for both you and Asani. When it's not oath of fidelity, what's in your glass?
Uh-oh. I'll let Asani go first.
Yes. So I am really loving right now the Bedrock Heritage 2020. I have just discovered it with Chris Cottrell and Morgan, who's their partner winemaker, and just really enjoying those bottles. I'm ordering another few as we speak.
Okay.
As far as me, I'm whatever's in there. It's if it's not oath of fidelity, obviously, and I say that because it's really really good, right? So
Yeah.
I can drink that all day long, but it's whatever I go in the cellar and just grab, depending on how I feel at that moment.
I understand. I get it. Sometimes it's cocktails, sometimes it's wine, sometimes it's coffee.
Yeah, it just depends.
Asani Swan, Carmelo Anthony, thank you so much for joining me today. I wish you so much success on this journey of yours, and I'm very happy to see everything that's taken place.
I appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
From producing fantastic wine for every palate to increasing representation and breaking racial barriers, Carmelo and Asani know exactly where they're taking the Seventh Estate. Wine is much more than fermented grapes. It's culture and it's storytelling. And the more diverse and inclusive this industry becomes, the more and more interesting wine will be. If you liked today's episode, we'd love to read your reviews and hear what you think. And hey, why not tell your wine-loving friends to check us out too? Remember, you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. You can also go to winemag.com/podcasts for more episodes and transcripts. I'm JC Tops. Thanks for listening.